What are they trying to achieve? What is Bella+Duke?
The mission statement of the brand: get 1 million pets off crap food.
What are you seeing work right now from a creative standpoint? Is it UGC? Is it brand? Is it influencer?
A whole mix of stuff, really, to be honest. It's funny, the majority of our spend is literally like, just in general, performance marketing is changing so much over the last few years, which is a good thing.
Where are you spending your money, across paid social? What kind of splits are you across at the moment?
Meta is like the big kahuna, isn't it? It's just the growth engine. Often, if you look at it on a like basis, Meta's going to look absolutely terrible, but really trusting from third-party measurement, and even trusting, I think, to the degree what Meta's saying in its own platform. Yeah. It's been a real transformation for the business over the last couple of years, just doubling down on Meta.
Growing abroad. What does that look like for you? Because I think we, as an agency, have been very well known for scaling brands into the US.
And then working with Dutch creators as well, so we get a lot of Dutch UGC.
You're actually sourcing UGC from the country that you're trying to, from an acquisition standpoint, is going to be your kind of focus over the next 12 months, in your role?
Try to spend as much money as
And what is the most kind of overrated, growth tactic you think is in e-com right now?
I'll tell you what's an overrated growth tactic that I just don't believe in, right? Is
Nick, tell us a little bit about your experience that led you up to getting into Bella+Duke and your role as head of digital growth.
I've got a bit of a mixed bag of experience between some in-house roles and agency side roles. So I started out at a small agency, went in-house to Trespass, the e-commerce brand, clothing brand, also retail brand as well. So I was there for about 6 months with them. It was a very short stint before going to a tech company called Oracle. That was doing a mix of things from paid ads to blog writing to organic social, like a real kind of, a mixed jack of all trades marketer there, which was great. Really found that I fell in love with paid media. Paid media is what I really wanted to get into and really wanted to get my teeth into and develop myself in. So I went to an agency up in Edinburgh called Lane Media. That was a great wee company. I really enjoyed my time. I was there for about 18 months or so, and just like writing at Meta ads, writing at Google ads, really getting to work with some cool businesses. Was across a whole range of accounts, from e-commerce brands to lead gen activity as well. And from there, I decided to go in-house. So I went to Sainsbury's Bank.
That's a big change.
Yeah, big change. Yeah, very different. So that was cool as well. That was a digital marketing manager role that was specifically focusing on paid social. So we were across pet insurance, which is very similar to Bella+Duke, as it turns out, travel insurance, home insurance, travel money, and yes, that was great as well. It was a really cool team. It was very different. If you come from an agency where you're working with kind of SMEs, you're very fast and agile. That was all the kind of connotations of working in a big corporate environment. It was very process driven, but learned a lot of cool stuff. And then they made a move to, they were sold to NatWest, so they were changing the structure of the team, and I felt like a good time to look elsewhere. And then the role came up in Bella+Duke, and so that was initially a digital growth manager role, focusing on paid social again, and that's just expanded out since I've been there to take on paid search and affiliates and TV and all the other stuff that we're doing as well. So it's really kind of grown arms and legs. So my role at Bella+Duke specifically is really, it's head of digital growth. It is also in a way kind of head of paid media. I look after where are we spending the money, what channels are working for us, trying to evidence how channels are working for us and what their causal impact is, what messages we're putting out in different places, and how we're able to try and get as many people through the door at Bella+Duke as we can.
So that's 2 years now you've been at Bella+Duke, nearly.
2 years, right. Yeah. September 2024, so coming on 2 years, yeah.
And so, Ed and I know Bella+Duke and what that business is and stands for, but for the listener, Bella+Duke is grown quite quickly. And it's, in a nutshell, what are they trying to achieve? What is Bella+Duke?
We're trying to achieve, the mission statement of the brand is get 1 million pets off crap food. Nice. So that's the ethos of the brand is try and get pets on a diet that's all natural. So the food is 100% natural, 100% nutritionally complete. It's all frozen at source, so there's no artificial preservatives, etc. And trying to get pet owners off ultra-processed foods. Your traditional kibbles and the likes that sometimes can contain ingredients that aren't the best for pets, over a long period of time. And we're trying to move away from that. So yeah, really the mission for the company is try and acquire as many customers as we can, try and keep as many as we can, and try and educate people on the way. And it's a great brand to work for because it's properly like mission first. We're not trying to shoehorn in a purpose. The brand was born of our two founders, Tony and Mark. They both lost dogs prematurely, and they believed it was due to the diet, what they were feeding them. And they went down the rabbit hole of raw being really the best thing to be feeding an animal. It's the natural diet for cats and dogs in the wild. And then Bella+Duke was born of that about 10 years ago, roughly. It founded at a big growth through COVID, as a lot of D2C brands did. And so now we're active in the UK. UK D2C would be our biggest part of the business. We're also active in retail, that's growing pretty fast. And we launched at the end of last year in the Netherlands and Belgium. So bit of international expansion as well.
Why the Netherlands and Belgium specifically?
Proximity to the UK,
Okay.
first off. So everything's made it's about a mile away from our office,
Nice.
just outside Edinburgh. It's near Dunfermline, so it's close to Edinburgh. Over the bridge, in at the left is where our office is, and then about a mile away from that, we've got a really cool factory. So everything's vertically integrated. So everything's produced there, and then it's shipped over to the Netherlands. So in first instance, yeah, just like proximity, but also it's a massive market as well. It's quite a similar market as well. There's a lot of cats and dogs. But we're dog only in the Netherlands right enough, but a lot of dog owners as well, so it made sense.
The brand's been going about 10 years. Even still, that's quite a long time in e-com terms, right? Especially given COVID and everything, but you have grown quickly. Where is the business at right now? In terms of growth, expansion, kind of what have you guys achieved since you've been there?
Yeah, so we've grown double-digit growth year on year. So we saw, again, like a lot of brands did, a lot of people bought cats and dogs and took cats and dogs into their homes over COVID, and with that as well, just the rise of e-commerce and COVID, it really shot up. Sort of recalibrated down towards the mean a little bit for a couple of years, probably like 2022, 2023, and then just over the last 2 years, we've seen really strong growth. A lot of that driven by solid retention. Like the product works. People like when they become a Bella+Duke customer, they tend to stick around, and also through performance marketing. Really, we've seen great success through our digital channels over the last couple of years, which has been really fruitful for the business.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because I think there are quite a few pet food brands out there now, and that subscription side of things is really powerful. How is that different from other brands you've worked on before? It's a different challenge, I'm sure. I know you said it's similar to pet insurance in a way.
But the process is almost identical. So when we were at Sainsbury's Bank acquiring a customer for pet insurance, you have your landing pages, you have your information, you have all the extras, etc. that you're hopefully enticing them on, and then the flow to become a customer is pretty much the same process. It's what's your pet's name, age, weight, etc. So very similar, and it's a cool challenge. There's a lot of data, a lot of points to go on, a lot of things you can test, a lot of areas you can exploit. It's maybe not the word for it, but a lot of areas that you can try and sharpen up and optimize. So I really enjoy it, to be honest. In terms of like as a subscription brand as well, most subscription brands, the majority of their revenue comes from existing customers. So long as we're growing our active base, that sort of supports the business, and the new customer side is really just growth focus. So not that it takes the pressure off. You need to be growing, you want to be growing. We've got targets that we need to hit, but it's not a case of one meta algorithm change will sink the business. So in a way, you can be quite experimental with things, and there's definitely a mandate to try new things. So it's a really exciting business to work for.
Yeah, I know. Ed and I were kind of speaking about that, the pet food industry and what's there. I think there's certain ones that seem really ambitious. Bella+Duke definitely seemed like that, and I think in conversations we had, even last night over dinner, you kind of were sold into that role in Bella+Duke. What is it about Bella+Duke that really attracted you in the first place, and what keeps you there?
Just that sort of sweet spot of good budgets. You're in a growing industry, you're a growing market, you are in a growing company, and it's exciting. But the team we've got a really good team. We've got a lot of people that absolutely love what they do. I head up paid media, really. I face off into a head of branded experience, a head of e-coms and CRM, a head of product. So there's every area it's covered, but it's not bloated, so you can get things done quickly. Everybody's really collaborative, and like I said, it's just a nice industry to be in. Pet food. Everyone looking at nice pictures of cats and dogs. You're doing a good thing in the end of the day. If you see the data that 85% of our customers are seeing improvements in their pets' well-being within 6 weeks, it's quite a nice thing. You feel like you're doing a good service there.
One thing that stood out to me was that this, you've got this goal and everyone's working towards this goal, and I think it's very similar for us as an agency. I think when you're a business of any size, and obviously you guys have got to a certain level now, having that one mission and goal is, for me, like drives everybody forward to we're in this together. Is that something you've had at other businesses before? Or would you say that was fairly new for Bella+Duke to put in for you guys?
This would definitely be the most that there's like a kind of North Star of we want to get as big as we can, and also this is the reason why we're doing it. So the two things, so like any business, you want to grow, it's a commercial entity at the end of the day, but it's very much like we're doing this for a purpose. We're doing this to try and help people and improve the lives of cats and dogs. So the two are very aligned, probably I would say more aligned than any other business I've been in. Not to say that other businesses that I've worked at haven't had a sort of North Star to aim for, but yeah, this is definitely it spurs you on. It spurs the team on as well.
Me on last night. I was thinking, I
absolutely.
want to subscribe just to get you there.
Yeah,
I think I know you've got to be careful about what you say, but I'd be interested to know: do you also internally have these revenue figures that you're also going for? Have you got this North Star in 5 years where you're like, look, I know it's 1 million pets, but it's also 100 million pounds. Have you got that kind of that goal internally?
Yeah, we've got a 5-year goal. So I can't give you the exact number, but it's fairly aggressive, but feels like we should be able to get there.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, is it an aggressive goal that you're going after, or would you say it's manageable, achievable, or have you got we've got this kind of breaker goal that we're really trying to achieve?
I think it's achievable. Yeah, based on how we've been growing over the last couple of years. Certainly, if we keep, obviously it's going to get harder as we go, but as we grow in retail, improve what we're doing on our digital channels, as we look at other markets as well, like the Netherlands and Belgium, it kind of thickens out where we're able to acquire customers from and drive revenue from. So yeah, it feels definitely manageable.
One thing that really stood out to us when we first heard you speak at an event a few weeks ago is it's not a traditional e-com model, right? You kind of push people into the quiz funnel. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that is and how that infrastructure works for you guys?
Yes, so we are to create a tailored plan for a pet. You have to know a bit about them, and it helps as well through the journey. So at each step of the journey, we ask the customer different questions based on whichever they've got, whether it's a cat or a dog. So it starts off with what's your pet's name, and then next, let's just say it's Baxter, for example. It's what's Baxter's age, and we can try and start to personalize the journey as it goes. And what that does essentially is it gives us a picture of how old is your pet, whether they're a puppy or whether they're a senior, whether they're kind of mid-age, obviously their gender as well, what size they are, what their weight is, what their breed is, and it lets us be quite tailored with how much food they should be getting. You get an option as well, so we'll get an idea of how much food they should be having. You can pick different recipes, so we've got a whole range of different recipes that we offer. We can either suggest, we have a suggested mix, or if you decide I want to have a few more of them and a few less of them, etc., then you can tailor it. And then essentially it is, you've got your own personalised plan, and then it helps with onboarding as well. So it's almost like your hand's being held. It's not like, I'm trying out this new food, I've never really heard about it, I'm skeptical to it. Everything's like tailored to you and explained clearly to you.
So I think one thing as well, you guys seem to solve that problem of the pet owner, right? But what is it fundamentally you think that quiz solves for people? Does it just kind of externalize a bit of their thinking, and you guys do that?
Yeah, it just lets us be super tailored to them, really. So if we were just like a kind of traditional e-commerce brand where you jumped on, this is what you get, leave your card details and off you go, then it's less of a bespoke service in a way. So we make sure that every cat or dog is getting an appropriate amount of food for them, or if for example, if they're a working dog, they might get a slightly different meal plan than you would get for a non-working dog, for example.
Hairspray, one of our clients, the quiz for them is everything, right? It's like this initial quiz, and it's obviously slightly different. They do have a subscription model. It is an important part of the business, but also have a lot of single purchase. But what we were finding was that most people were go into the quiz before purchasing, right? Because I think human instinct and what we want to do is we want to be told what's right for us. But what the next step to that, and what has been interesting, is we were then able to look at the answers and then build our personas off of that. Is that anything you guys have done? Are you getting any data from the quiz, the paid team?
We're almost doing it the other way around.
Okay.
So the quiz is it's necessary to make a purchase with us. So it's not like an add-on where you go through this quiz and it'll make a suggestion to you. That is literally, if you want to become a Bella+Duke customer, you have to go through these steps, and then you will get your personalised plan. So there's ways that with persona work that we're doing right now, like is the way the industry's been changing. We're very intentional with personas that we're putting out in our creative, and then we're trying to feed this through so that based on the persona that you might have engaged with and which landing pages you might have interacted with, then as you go into the sign up flow, that should hopefully be curated to your persona, and the idea being it should improve your conversion rate.
The other way around, basically. So you're going from personas we've found to then obviously creative and paid ads to then funneling that into the quiz. That's
exactly.
An interesting way to think about it. I've not thought about it like that before. Yeah, we were seeing it almost as like an area for us to gain. Gain the knowledge rather than actually maybe flipping it and going, well, actually we can use that to drive people into it, which I'd not thought about before, actually. So that's interesting. When obviously you're I guess somebody's going on site and they're completing the quiz or the form, as we want to call it, do you know what that completion to subscription rate is of people purchasing?
Yes, I do. Yeah, again, I probably can't give you the exact number of it, but yeah, that's one of the
tried, guys.
Are you happy with it? Are you happy with it?
Yeah, happy with it. Yeah, happy with it, and it ticks upwards, and it's pretty solid as well. It's improved over the last year or so, but it gives us a really good measure to say if we can get someone into the quiz because we know that they're away.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at paid media channels, one of the main metrics that we look at, it's called a nutrition plan. That's what we call it internally. Because I'm gonna start saying nutrition plan, and then it'll end up confused. So we call it nutrition plan. Really, the idea being that it'll give you your ideal nutrition plan for the cat or the dog, and so we can use that metric to gauge from all of our different traffic sources, are we getting the right people onto the website? Because have they interacted with the website and then gone on to enter the nutrition plan at the rate that we deem to be acceptable? So it's really good. Well, you might look at like your engagement rates, your time on site, etc. It's just like a really good proxy for traffic quality. And then that feeds back to, where are we spending money? If you're investing in a channel that doesn't look like it's converting amazingly at the last point, if you can see that it's getting people up to the point of entering the nutrition plan, then you know that is adding value to us. We know that those people are probably going to come back round at some other stage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of, I guess we work with lots of subscription brands, a very different model, right? I think we talk about unit economics all the time and kind of what that looks like from a CAC perspective. Obviously, you can't give us exact numbers, but for Bella+Duke and then other businesses you work with, obviously you've been an agency. What is that difference in CAC for you normally? Are you kind of looking at it from a loss first perspective? Are you looking at it from, with a lot of ecom brands, we have to be profitable on that first purchase? Where are you guys kind of standing in that position?
So I think I would imagine all of our competitors are the same, and a lot of subscription brands like us will be the same. You do make a loss in the first purchase. It's getting a lot more expensive to play on advertising channels. Your CPMs are going up, CPCs are going up, and then we give away a decent margin as well in the first box. So our introductory headline offer is 40% off your first box and 30% off your second, and then 20% off your third. So with that, we know that it's going to cost us a little bit to the business to acquire a customer, but then over time as they stick with us,
it's no secret that I am to losing £220 per new customer.
Right, really?
So, yeah.
We're not losing that much.
No, that's good. Everyone always says it, and I think I mentioned this when we did our talk, that everyone wants to be that, and everyone wants to get that level of growth, but unless you understand your unit economics, like it's almost impossible. What I'm interested in is the unit economics that obviously you guys are going for. Where's that fed from? Is that from higher up in the business that you get these set goals and targets, or are you working together to see what you can achieve from a CPA perspective?
It is a mix. So it can be hard to gauge LTV based on there's so many different sizes of cat, well, mostly dog. The size ranges massively from Chihuahuas to Great Danes. And then we also, per customer, you can get a 4 kilo box, you can get up to a 20 kilo box, depending on your size of your freezer space or how much you want to feed your animal. Some people mix feed, etc. So they might get a smaller box and part feed that with a kibble. So it's a really big mix. We've got a data science team, and that's one of their things. One of their real tasks is like really understand the customer, aggregate all of our data, and then pulls together to say what is like our allowable CAC as a business.
Okay.
And then from the higher ups, the financial planning says, what is our allowable CAC? What do we want to aim to as a business, just in terms of like how many customers do we want to acquire for our spend? And then that forms the North Star that the North Star blended CAC that we're working.
So you have like a North Star blended, which I think is the sensible model. Like you said, it's so hard to know exactly what that CAC is when people are purchasing multiple things, obviously staying on for different periods. I want to really dive into, I know we had a chat about this last night off camera, and creative for me obviously is what I could chat about all day. So I wanted to dive into this kind of section with you. I know obviously it's massive at Bella+Duke right now. For the people out there that are running pet food brands or starting pet food brands, what are you seeing work right now from a creative standpoint? Is it is it UGC? Is it brand? Is it influencer? Is it a mix of everything? What are you seeing work in your account right now?
A whole mix of stuff, really, to be honest. It's funny, the majority of our spend, right, not the majority, but our highest spending ad is literally like pretty much a flat lay pack shot with a nice design background behind it and an offer on it. Literally. And we had this last year, pretty much through the whole of last summer. We had about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months where like literally most of our budget would go into this one ad that was literally just like a picture of the food with an offer sticker on it. And we were like, obviously in the background, we were saying, we'll try this angle, we'll try this hook, we'll try this. We do a lot with UGC and stuff as well. And we were actually having to actively like break out these ads and force budget behind them in other campaigns and other ad sets, just because like Mea just loves this back shot. Like, it's crazy. So we still see that we've since Andromeda's been rolled out, to full extent over the last few months, we are seeing a lot more of our creative is getting budget, but we still do see that Mea just loves this. Just absolutely loves this pack shot. Yeah, but out with that, I had to just mention that. Out with that, we do a lot of UGC. We were quite fortunate that a lot of cat and dog owners, like, they'll have like Instagrams for their own pets, and they actually already like producing content. So we work with a platform that helps us basically incentivize existing customers with like free food, basically, in exchange for content. And that's a really great way. Most of them being customers already, they're big advocates of the brand. We find that our customers do really love the food and the experience and working with us, so and being a customer of us. So yeah, that's a great way to get content
Are you able to
refined.
say what platform that is that you guys use?
Social CAT.
So, okay.
Social CAT, yeah.
What's interesting is obviously the mission's so clear at Bella+Duke, but then so you're trying to get pets off food, right? How much do you lean into that emotional angle through the concepts that you guys create in the creative?
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So we our different personas are based on different potential need states. So and we'll really, without giving away exactly what these all are, if someone who's got a pet with an allergy, for example, is probably quite different to someone who has got, they're just averse to ultra processed foods themselves, so they're more interested in, I want to feed the best for my animal, versus someone who's really in a kind of problem solution need state. So we'll tap into them. We work it by, each persona has got its own kind of mini funnel within the persona as well. So we look to say, like, how are we making sure that our messaging taps into someone who might be either unaware that they've got a problem, unaware of Bella+Duke, aware of Bella+Duke, aware of the problem, etc., or someone who's like, right, ready to go.
I think there's like problem unaware. I guess we use that a lot in It Prosper, and I think people miss out on that, like especially in a like problem solution market like this. Like for example, hair syrup problem solution. We've got a pet food brand that's problem solution, and I think people really miss out on that as it's not even a persona, but it's it's a group of people that you need to target through.
Yeah, definitely.
Creative.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements to Bella+Duke where it is very kind of brand heavy, but also it is a functional product in the end of the day. So it's just making sure that we're not being too overly clinical all the time of really just problem exacerbating. Like we're really bringing all the positive elements of Bella+Duke into our creative as well, but at the same time we're not shying away from the fact that, like, if you get a pet who has got an existing condition, like we actually, feeding your cat, your dog Bella+Duke can actually go on to help the animal's well-being.
Yeah. Well, I just about to say, I know you've been big on the brand building side of a lot of the creators we've done. The Dishy, James Martin, you've done a line with him and a bit of content with that. But how does like brand level creative like that flow back into the performance and active subscriptions?
Really, really well. To be honest, we found we were running, James Martin was featured on our homepage. We had James Martin in a lot of our ads, and we found that they were consistent top spenders. I think just having that familiar face, people do respond to it. Obviously, like, celebrity endorsement is tried and tested across the world. It's like, tale as old as time. But we really saw it. We saw that Meta's algorithm favoured those ads. We saw that our hook rates were better, our click-through rates were better, and it really performed well for us.
A question I get a lot, actually, I think probably in the audit stage more than anything, when we're talking to subscription brands, is, are you briefing creative different because it's a subscription brand? Is that something that you're actively doing, or would you say is very similar and that actually doesn't matter whether it's one time or subscription? It's going to be very similar from a creative strategy perspective.
It comes through in like your UGC. They'll talk about how since joining Bella+Duke over the time, my dog has seen X.
So it's more like referencing the longevity of the subscription almost in the creative is what you're thinking.
Yeah, it'll come through naturally. Okay. So as well as, I suppose, our kind of lower funnel assets is like, subscribe now for 40% off your first box, and it will reference it as a subscription. But at the same time, we don't really like shout to the moon, but it's not a core message as it is a subscription. We don't really lean too heavily into the kind of convenience angle of having a subscription. Like what we're trying to get across is really the benefits of the product, the benefits of the brand, and the benefits of being a customer. Obviously.
And then people will naturally just subscribe because it's a lot easier, right? Rather than throwing the subscription down. I feel like it's like a lot of brands tend to do. But really interesting question that someone actually wanted me to ask is, so from a split, and obviously you can't give the exacts, but where are you spending your money, across paid social? What kind of splits are you across at the moment?
Meta is like the big kahuna, isn't it? Meta is like, we're it's just the growth engine, isn't it? And that's probably one of the big growth levers for us in the last couple of years is doubling down on Meta and kind of holding your breath a little bit with it. And often, if you look at it on a last click basis, Meta's going to look absolutely terrible, but really trusting from third-party measurement, and even trusting, I think, to a degree, what Meta's saying in its own platform. It's been a real like, transformation for the business for the last couple of years, just doubling down on Meta. And I think we're a very kind of social heavy brand as well. Like we're very, I think we come across well on social. Like there's a lot of nice cats and dogs. Everyone likes looking at these. Quite a lot of our content as well is quite educational. So we've got a registered vet nurse internally called Caroline, who's fantastic, and we'll do a film with her talking about the ingredients, the reason why different proteins are better for dogs, etc. So that's all really powerful, and I think people like to engage with it on social. Our core customer base is a fairly even split across a bunch of different age ranges, but we do see a lot of customers in that sort of 45 to 55, even like 35 to 55 sort of range that lends itself well to Facebook. So if you break it out, you'll see that we serve on Meta, and we let Meta's algorithm decide which channel you want to push towards, but we probably skew pretty heavily towards Facebook. Then we use TikTok as well. TikTok would be our next one. So TikTok's an incremental reach for us. It's a slightly younger customer that we see, and we spend probably not a massive percentage of our budget on that, but enough that it's it's a good exposure channel for us and definitely drives a few extra sales. Creative that we use on it is quite similar to a lot of the UGC and a lot of the kind of real platform native style creative. It works across TikTok really well for us too.
I want to selfishly ask you a question, which I asked Luke last time about the way he sets up his campaign is very cost cap heavy, and everything is about letting Meta and the algorithm do all the heavy lifting, right? And then you put these cost caps in place to make sure that it doesn't go out of control. How do you guys at Bella+Duke see the way that you set up your Meta account specifically? How have you got that set up right now?
We have got, you go as broad as you can with the majority of your budget. We do have like an incubator campaign as well. We can test things, so you can guarantee a bit of spend against some creative and see whether it performs or not, and then you can roll that out into your main campaign. That's our general setup right now, and that's split across cat and dog, so they're broken out in another account. And we do some retarget as well. I know there's a lot of chat about should you be retargeting, should you just I'm a big believer in like maximizing frequency for people who are at the bottom of the funnel. I think like if someone has been on the website, if they've entered in the nutrition plan and they've not gone on to convert, you want to make sure you're getting in front of them, a decent amount of times. And so with that, I think if you just run everything through an ASC campaign, you can't necessarily guarantee that kind of hot pocket of users are getting re-engaged as much as you might like to. So yeah, we got a bit of retargeting going as well.
Did that change with Andromeda? Has that setup been pretty evergreen for you?
Yeah, it's been evergreen. Yeah, it's been pretty stable as well, yeah.
So what did change with Andromeda for you guys? Because I know we spoke about it last night.
It was it was a funny one. We so I mentioned that we had this basically one style of creative that was very kind of lower funnel, that was just getting like all the budget, and it was performing. If you look post click, the traffic quality that was coming through was great. There was times as well that I would break it out and be like, surely like these are fatiguing, and like your click through rate's getting better, like your cost per nutrition plan starts getting better. It just like pretty much at the start of February just went and just changed. Yeah, it was but fortunately we were in a place the business was already moving towards trying to personalize the experience towards different personas, and really depending on what the reason was that you were engaging with Bella+Duke, we were going to have a curated experience for you. So we were kind of already set up for that, and we were moving towards it. So it wasn't like what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to change this to tackle this? But it was a bit of we had to get all our new creative in. The campaigns had to relearn against our new creative, and certainly it feels like we probably don't get quite the same value from Meta in terms of the quality that's coming through. But think about that. It's a completely different beast now, to be honest, as well. Used to last year when we had these ads that were just like very kind of very lower funnel looking ads, you would look at the percentage of new users. If you take out that ad and look at the campaign, the new users that would come through, it's like 75% new users. So if you think like from an incremental reach point of view, this was engaging new users. Like this wasn't just like circling the drain of the same kind of people. But certainly since we've rolled out a more diverse creative strategy and we're really, really maximizing using our different personas, looking at our cost per incremental reach and just the incremental reach that we're getting period on period, it has grown massively. So from that sense, we know that we're introducing new people. The quality, and just in terms of like a click to nutrition plan start rate, is a bit less, but is that a trade-off of bringing more cool people in? Potentially, yeah. So it's just like, I think it's a very different beast, but it's been interesting, like the Andromeda thing.
It is, yeah. I mean,
it
shook everything up. I was saying to you last night, imagine having that across 40 accounts.
I can imagine that. Everyone emailing at once, what's going on?
And it wasn't gradual. Like I was saying to you, it was like January hit, and it was like boom. Because we'd heard about this. We'd gone to Meta head office and heard about this last year, and we were thinking like, okay, when is this coming in? When is this coming in? We're like planning for it. When is this coming in? And then they launched Andromeda. Nothing really changed, and then boom, January. And I was like, oh my God, it felt like a wall had hit our face. But I think that, and I was saying this to you, I think a lot of brands like to understand, a brand like Bella+Duke that is kind of spending a sizable amount is still having those same issues. I think it can be, founders can feel very lost with that. So it's good to know that, well, not good to know, but it's for other people, it's good to know that you're having those same issues.
It's a good, it's good to be kept on your toes as well. It's good to have a bit of jeopardy, and it's fun in a way. Obviously, like see your traffic quality drop pretty sharply. It's like panic stations. You need to try and evidence, right? We think it's this is the plan of actions, etc. But those kind of things as well. Having your detective hat on for 25% of the time is actually like it's quite enjoyable in a way. It's good to solve the puzzle, and especially if you crack it and you can see the outcome from it, it's a good thing. And I think just in general, performance marketing is changing so much over the last few years, which is a good thing.
Obviously, a lot of the audience are thinking about creative testing, creative strategy, creative briefing processes all the time. What does that look like for you guys from kind of that initial ideation to you've got it, it's in the account, and you're iterating on it or not based off of how it kind of works? What can you run us through that process?
Yeah, so we catch up. We'll catch up weekly where we'll discuss what we're working on, what's gone live, what
And that's with the creative team.
With the creative team.
Yeah,
Yes, we've got an in-house studio.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a range of very talented designers. So yeah, everything's done in-house, which is great for us. It helps us be like everyone's really on top of it, and using tools like Motion has been great. I think for the design team as well. Maybe if you go back like 18 months. It was a bit like the ads get created and they get shipped into Meta, and then the performance team is looking after the metrics, etc., and it just feeds back to say we need more of this. Using Motion's really brought like the performance metrics and actually the outcomes that we're getting from improving our creative, improving our creative output and also improving our creative quality. Everyone feels on board with that, so that's great. So we very much tackle it as a team. So every 2 weeks we'll do it in sprints. So every week we catch up. We do it in 2 week sprints of this is what we want to work on based on what I'm seeing in Meta's ad manager and the actual really like kind of CPA metrics, but then also what is Motion telling us in terms of your hook rates and your click-through rates, etc., and your drop-offs, and what can we actually try and iterate on and improve.
One thing that you've seen, especially with the team working across as many accounts as we do, is our graphic designers have kind of moved almost into that using Motion, a creative strategist role in some ways, and they've had to been able to understand that data. But yeah, I think I'd like to just talk about the retention side and the things that you guys do, because we had a great guest on recently, Ollie Greenbridge from 8 Hours, and they have a sleep coach. They're a sleep supplement brand. We've got some behind there somewhere, but they have a sleep coach that is actively ringing people and kind of looking after the customers, making sure that they've got everything they need to use a supplement correctly. You guys have got the vet internally. What's that relationship like, and why do you think that's so important?
Having a registered vet nurse internally, I think is massive for a lot of reasons. From a retention point of view, it's great to know that there's support there if you need it. So as I mentioned, like a lot of customers will come to us because their pet's either got digestive issues or skin issues, or there's a medical ailment there that it could be diet related, and actually moving on to a food like Bella+Duke is going to be transformational for the cat or the dog. So having anything that's medical related, you're obviously going to be a bit like, is this the right move? I'm concerned, I'm stressed. People absolutely love their pets. They treat them like a member of the family, and with that they have like natural concern if the pet's unwell. So I think having that as a feature available to speak to someone who is like a registered professional is super powerful, both from a retention point of view if someone is worried and they know that they're going to have that resource there if they need it, and also from an acquisition point of view, just having that real kind of medical specialism present on our website, present in our ads, it's massively beneficial.
So you'll put that in creative, that you've got medical professionals involved as well.
Yeah, so a lot. She's great. I mentioned the Caroline. She's a lot of cool ads with her in a branded Bella+Duke green tunic and chatting through like all the reasons why the food is good for a cat or a dog.
The subscription offer that you guys go for is quite aggressive up front. And obviously you've got to then look at the CAC LTV payback period. But in terms of churn, why do you think customers of Bella+Duke ever do churn?
Could be a lot of reasons, really. Like people either fussy would be a big reason if the pet for whichever reason is decided that it doesn't want to eat the food anymore. You see that a lot with cats. Cats can be quite selective. So if someone takes out a Bella+Duke subscription and then offers it to their pet doesn't want to eat it, there's not really a whole lot you can do there. You can't incentivize them, say, we'll give you credit in your next box. It's like, well, what do I need another box for? So that would be a big reason. We tend to find that that's quite apparent early on in the journey. Once people have been with us for kind of 4, 5, 6 boxes, they tend to hang around. Other reasons would be convenience. Having a subscription that comes every month isn't necessarily what everyone's looking for. You might be going away for work, for example, or you might be moving house, whatever life event it is. You might not want to have your subscription appearing, so that's one. And then like cost as well is one. Like it is more expensive than a kibble, so it's sometimes people, whatever their situation is, they might not want to keep a subscription going, and they might want to move away for a bit.
Yeah, and do you guys, I guess what I'm interested in is, do you guys in the pay team use any of that data then that's fed back to you, and how is that fed back? Are you actively going after people that have churned after 1 month, 2 months? Are you trying actively to get those back, or is that kind of not something you guys do?
Not on paid side.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that on a CRM side. There would be a kind of win back activity, but from a paid perspective, we can see it's all based on last click on UTMs. We can see which channel people have come in through, or which ad they've come in through, and then we can see what their kind of box 1 to 2 to 3 retention looks like. So that's fairly active on that, just making sure everything's looking okay, that we're not investing in areas that are non-retentive to us. And a big project for this year is really trying to use what data that we've actually got in our CRM and our CDP and passing that back into platforms to inform bidding. That's like the holy grail for me that we're
that-
still we're still trying to
I thought it might be.
We've been doing this for a while, and like we've kind of gone down a few rabbit holes with it. There's a few things that we can do and a few things that we like to do that we're trying to figure out how we would, but basically how can we enrich our targeting based on our most retentive customers? How do we use that digital DNA to try and inform how the algorithms are going to go out and try and find people, whether that's on Meta, whether that's on Google search, for example. And then obviously once we can get to that point as well, how can we try and evidence that your CAC might go up potentially, but with that, you know, are we actually getting a more retentive customer, and does it net out a better?
Customer.
Exactly,
I guess
yeah.
that's what I was thinking on that side, because that's something I'm really interested in, is like, you know, is the pain points of consumers and why they eventually leave Bella+Duke if they do, you know, is that something that you can put in creative to make sure then that you're getting that you know, that better customer, or that, you know, more quality customer up front, because you've already kind of shown them that these probably will be the pain points and they're either going to buy or not buy from that. I think that's something we've seen recently, which I think is a new way to even think about, you know, creative on paid social.
How is it we do? So whenever someone leaves, we have a reason, cancellation reason that we can break out, and exactly that, we do bring it front load it into the creative to try and address that. Okay. So similarly through the whole website as well, through the whole journey, we try, if we, whichever reason someone is that they cancel, the highest propensity to cancel reasons, we try and address that through our content.
Your post purchase side of things, I know it's obviously less on you and on another team, but I know obviously you'll know a lot about it. Are they using quiz data in their CRM? Are they pulling through any of the quiz data to then obviously influence, you know, win backs and whatever else they're doing that side?
So the quiz data is less about the customer and more about, I guess, the breed and the size of the pet. So with that as well, you'll have a curated plan for your pet, and then follow-up communications can reference, you know, they obviously speak to the customer in the language of their pet. Any communications relevant to the breed, for example, like just everything tries to be as curated as possible to that customer based on what we know about them.
Do you do anything with WhatsApp? Again, I know this is not your area, right? But it's just interesting. I know Ed's built the WhatsApp from Lucy, the founder at Hair Syrup, and that's worked really well for us. But do you do anything like that?
Not right now. Coming in, that's
on the horizon.
On the project, yes. Yeah. That's there's a few irons in the fire with WhatsApp, both from a retention point of view, just using it as a way that we can engage with our customers. There is some communication in the Netherlands actually through WhatsApp, but then from an acquisition point of view as well, trying to use that as a new placement, that feels like it's emerging. I don't know if you guys would be brands on it right now, but that's plan is to test that out and just almost have like a mini flow within WhatsApp that then leads onto the website to enter into our proper funnel.
100%. I just wanted to quickly go back to, because I was thinking about it. So I think Luke as well that was here was struggling with TikTok, right? And obviously you guys are running on TikTok, and I think a lot of founders kind of, you know, they might get a bit of success with some creative and then it kind of, you know, dies off, and we see that happening a lot, and it's that constant volume of creative needed for TikTok. I think that the best brands that do well on TikTok understand what they're using it for, and I think you said that, and we were speaking last night and said that, you know, for a lot of brands we use it to reduce CPMs on other platforms or whatever it might be, to be that first kind of I guess touch point. Where does it sit in your funnel, TikTok?
I guess it's full funnel to an extent, in that we'll have cold audiences and we retarget people on TikTok as well. Really, in my mind, it's an incremental reach play. It's just maximizing the audiences we're getting to. On Meta, like I mentioned, you know, we're pretty heavy on Facebook, and we're pretty heavy across like a few different age ranges, whereas on TikTok, like for example, Meta would be pretty heavy towards that kind of 35 to 55 range. TikTok's very heavy towards that 18 to 24. So we just know, I don't have data that shows the overlap of the audiences, but you can guess that it's going to be a pretty incremental exposure for us. So yeah, just generally bringing people into the Bella+Duke journey.
Nice. And you've just signed up for Triple L?
Just signed up for it. Yeah.
Excited?
I'm excited. Yeah. They're excited. Yeah.
I think it's we were discussing last night. Have this one source of truth, and you know, and stick with it. Is there something with Triple L that made you go, that's the platform that we need to use? Was there anything there that kind of got you across the line with them?
One of the things, having a first party pixel on the website was a big thing. So having an unbiased view of like how all your channels are flowing in, how they're all interacting, and then taking that third party view of like really what's going on the website, but also it offers a kind of top down MMM view as well, so you're getting that mix. But one of the big things as well, having a first party pixel on the website for us, is that nutrition plan start. So that is just such an indicator for us of whether someone is going to go on to become a customer. And we've used other tools before that were just really looking at the conversion point, and all of our understanding, all of our measurement of nutrition plan starts right now is all based on last click. So like super interested to try and get a third party MTA view of like what are people being exposed to meta ads and then coming in direct and then hitting that nutrition plan as well, and just really enriching our understanding of like really what channels are pushing people up to the point of starting a flow as well as actually getting over the line.
And was there like a moment internally where you guys decided actually we need that? Was there a point? Was it a revenue number? Was it a spend number? Or was it just you felt like it was the right time?
No, not really. We had been using a tool, another MTA tool as well. So we had an MTA tool. We had our GA4. We had our own platforms with our own kind of internal dashboards, and really just having something that unifies that with a nice UI that you can want to really live in. It just sort of felt at the right time. Obviously, the business has got heavy growth plans. We want to scale our channels further than we have already, and just having that sort of one centralized view that's just nice. It's a nice, easy experience. And I think from a planning point of view as well, our forecasting is all kind of based on our own numbers, but having a real forecasting tool as well that can say, based on scenario A, if I spent X, Y, and Z in this channel, what can we expect? What does our kind of diminishing return look like? So yeah, it just felt at the right time for it.
Nice.
Really.
I think we wanted to talk a little bit about paid social and then growing abroad, nationalization or internationalization of the brand. What does that look like for you? Because I think, we as an agency have been very well known for scaling brands into the US. That's come to be a bit of a USP for us. And I know obviously Europe and Netherlands and Belgium for you guys. When you first launch into a new territory across paid social, what is your view of how you should be setting that up from a creative and from a standpoint of the actual complexities within Meta?
It's a tough one. So launching into the Netherlands and Belgium, that was our first foray into international markets, and you've got zero data to go on, really. So we took what was working in the UK initially. We used a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same things that we saw were resonating, because you think the customer is probably going to be quite similar. If they've got a need state that we can address with our food, then that's definitely something to tap into. Also, I guess more regional specific, so a lot of transcreation, not just translation, and really tailoring. We work with we've got a country director who oversees everything from kind of marketing to fulfillment, etc. in the market. So he's been great. He can tell us that doesn't, if you just translate that over, that doesn't really make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to the Dutch market. And then working with Dutch creators as well. Okay. So we get a lot of Dutch UGC that's doing really, really well for us. So yeah.
So you're actually sourcing UGC from the country that you're trying to, okay. And is that, at what point did you start testing that in the journey of the Netherlands? How far in was that?
Probably about 6 months in.
6 months,
something
okay.
like that. Yeah, maybe a bit less than that, maybe.
Nice.
4 months in, 5 months in. Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
We get that a lot, where it's like, you're coming in, and like you said, when you've got no data, it's like, what do I do at this point? And a lot of brands are like, oh my God, it's it's totally new market. Let's just chuck everything we've already known from the UK in. And I think that we're kind of lucky with Europe, maybe in those, I guess those countries you're speaking about, they might be a fairly similar market. But when you go to France or Spain, the way they shop it's totally different. You spoke earlier about the fact that you've gone to those markets because of proximity. What's next in Europe? Have you got any expansion plans into the rest of Europe?
There's a couple of plans floating about that again. Can't really give you the details on, but yeah, I mean everything's going well in so far. In the Netherlands and Belgium, certainly, like you mentioned, it's hard going into a new market, a new country, with no brand equity, no data behind you. Like you think, oh, look, we're doing great in the UK. We'll go over there and everyone will just like fall in love with it straight away. Like it's not really the way it goes. You need to spend a bit of time. You need to reach enough people. You need to have enough. You need to have enough reach. You need to have enough frequency. You need to be seen in the right places, and it's a grind at first, but certainly we've seen like really nice growth in both the Netherlands and Belgium over the last period. So with that being the blueprint for, we know that this works. Obviously, there's a wider European market for us to try.
There's lots, but honestly, like we've just found like the differences in like the way that they shop in France, Spain, Germany, Netherlands, all these kind of territories it's significant, and it's been an interesting finding for us too, and it's been something that we've obviously had to deal with. We've got quite a lot of brands that ship to and obviously sell to Europe, so it's been a good learning for us as well. One thing that I get a lot, and I guess is a conversation point that I have with a lot of brands that are in retail, is how retail cannibalizes D2C, right? And I think that there'll be lots of brands out there and brands that we work with that they're selling D2C, they're also selling in retail, and they're fighting against themselves basically across, and I'll take Google shopping, for example, across paid shopping. What's your stance on that? How as a business do you tackle that, if at all is needed?
We're fortunate that we don't really face up against retailers trying to advertise our products online. So for example, when I was at Trespass, we did a lot of brand work because they were retail heavy, and a lot of retailers like my warehouse, for example, they would be trying to sell Trespass jackets, and so we're competing against them for our own words. We don't really face that too much. There probably is a little bit of, there definitely is a lot of people seeing us online going and buying us in Pets at Home, for example. We don't have a super clear read at this time of like how much they benefit each other. Or similarly, you might see us in Pets at Home think, that looks great, see us online and go, oh, I've seen them in store, they look like the real deal, I can tell that they're a proper outfit and become a customer. So there's definitely crossover there. In terms of like supporting the two functions, like the both of them are pulling the same direction really. We're not trying to fight each other. And a lot of the media that we do, for example, we ran an out-of-home campaign recently in Bristol. That was a few months ago now. That had a nice incremental lift both in DTC but also in Pets at Home over the period as well. So there's a lot of crossover. Anywhere where you're trying to build your brand and trying to gain exposure, it should complement both DTC and retail at the same time.
You're only in store in the UK, but Netherlands and Belgium?
Just the UK.
Just in the UK.
Just the UK. And this next 12-month period obviously is going to be super important for you guys and your growth. And what, if we speak to you in 12 months time, and obviously speaking to you today, what from an acquisition standpoint is going to be your kind of focus over the next 12 months, in your role?
Try to spend as much money as
and not regret it.
Not absolutely burst my CAG. Yeah, that is pretty. Building the brand really as well. We are a decent sized company. We're pretty well known. It's always nice when you bump into someone out in the wild as well who knows, knows Bella+Duke, and that everyone that you meet as well who knows Bella+Duke. It's great, and I swear to God, I'm not just saying this. They're like, I've fed my dog Bella+Duke for 5 years, and look at him, these beautiful animals. Which is great. We're not massive. We're not like a household name just yet. So there's going to be a lot of both kind of short-term activation, acquisition, and make sure that we're building our customer base as we go with our media, but also getting featured in or getting exposure on like high trust spaces, real upper funnel media. I think is going to be a big plan for the business. So
interesting. I think you mentioned something there, and obviously I know you were maybe half joking, maybe not, but spend as much as you can, right, from an acquisition standpoint. We work a lot with MER with brands where it's like, if we're hitting MER or if we're hitting a allowable CAC, whatever that is, you better be spending my money or I'm annoyed. Is that Bella+Duke's mantra to this? Is it, we've got our allowable CAC as a paid team, you better spend that money if we're hitting that allowable CAC? Is that kind of the where you guys are?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
You've got a mandate to try and spend. I know I'm saying it in kind of jest, but like we're trying to get as many new customers in as we possibly can, and with that's going to take investment. So if we're hitting that MER CAC, that's literally what it is. We every single day tot up whether we spend on every single platform, how many new customers do we get, and is that within the threshold? And then you obviously look at that on your kind of weekly, monthly basis as well. And if we're within the threshold, then it's definitely it's pile it on. We have financial planning, you have estimated budgets for the month, but if it's working, like, pile it on, which is exciting. I think one of the first.
That's what you want.
I know you want. I'm like, please.
one of the first questions you asked us was, what keeps you in the business, or what do you like about it? And it's definitely that, like, you're trying to crack the nut. You're trying to find that pocket of like, this is working, and then double down on it. You're not working backwards, managing a CAC, and just make sure that you spend to the button. It's very much like, how fast can we go?
You manage a team that's obviously very successful at growing Bella+Duke. How do you think that changes in the next 12 months? Maybe what's the next hire? Is there a hire that maybe you can't even foresee with kind of the rise of the way things are changing?
I think we could probably use someone else hands-on and paid social. I think it's like one of those things with performance marketing that there's like an infinite amount of things that you could do. So the team consists of myself and my colleague Amy, who is our digital growth manager that focuses really on paid search and a couple of channels as well. And with that, we tackle all the media buying, all the reporting internally, but just with more hands on deck, there's more you can do, there's deeper insights you can get, there's more proactive you can be, there's new things you can experiment with. So I would see that potentially being a hire. I don't know whether there would be an AI, you were talking about this last night, just having an AI hire. I don't know whether that would be but there's a few people that are kind of wearing the AI hat. There's a couple of team members that are like really, really embedded in like fleets of AI minions doing their bidding for them. So that potentially, and we've just taken on recently a few new hires. We've brought in influencer specialists just to really improve what we're doing in terms of, from an organic point of view as well, in terms of who we're working with, just like not necessarily just on a paid perspective, but also how we're getting that content, how that content's getting fed into paid, and how that little kind of engine works. And then also looking from an affiliate point of view as well. We haven't really worked with influencers on affiliates. All of our affiliates right now are kind of content based or closed user groups, whereas we really want to test, like, will people change their pet's food based on a promo code that's offered to them by an influencer?
I know, you say running a proper affiliate channel takes a serious level of control and kind of investment. That's something that I think Luke was saying as well, that he's looking at doing as well. Luke, the previous guest on this podcast. Yeah, it's interesting to see about the hire. I know Luke mentioned that he's got someone specifically comes in to do AI and floats around the business. I know in the agency we've got a couple of people who are very similar like that. I think it'd be a good chance to just kind of get your opinion on a few different marketing myths and legends. Ed, I'll let you kind of ask away.
Yeah, so what's the biggest creative mistake you're seeing D2C brands make right now?
Biggest creative mistake?
Yeah, don't hold back.
I don't think I've got a massively critical eye. Potentially not diversifying enough. I suppose as well, being very, very brand heavy on your creative is probably a mistake right now. I think if you have like really rigid brand guidelines that you won't deviate away from, and your creative diversity really is your headline copy is changing, for example, like you're going to really kneecap your incremental reach. I think the brands, it looks like any of the brands that are trying kind of weird, wacky, wonderful stuff are seeing growth. And I think that's just the way it has to be on Meta now. And I think people need diversity, and they also need they need to see platform native stuff. So like really authentic ads, really kind of creative that is built for whether it's TikTok or whether it's Meta, what that looks like organic but has also got a commercial message through it, or it's got a commercial outcome desired from it, is what's going to see success currently. I think people are averse to the kind of in your face, this is clearly an ad, when it's a really direct response.
Well, we were saying last night,
campaign.
it's like, it's the organic stuff that's doing the best.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
just pure. You don't think it's an ad, you don't think it's being targeted at you. What is the most kind of overrated, I guess, growth tactic you think is in e-com right now?
Most overrated.
You can take your time.
Spending on brand is not really a growth tactic, but I think a lot of brands are still doing it. I'll tell you what's an overrated growth tactic that I just don't believe in, right? Is competitor bidding. Like, I don't know if you guys see it. I hate, we fortunately, we've got a few kind of agreements in place with other brands not to bid on our terms, and some people back it, some people don't. I've just never seen it work. I've tried it in a few businesses where you're always just going to get high CPC, low conversion rate, and I know the mindset is like it's an incremental customer because you've stolen them off your competitor. I just don't really believe in it.
You guys don't do any of that, Bella+Duke?
Yeah, don't do any of that now.
I like that a lot. I used to have that all the time. We're like just fighting against everyone, and someone would come up to you at an event like, you're bidding on my brand.
It's a race to the bottom. Only thing is PMax will shoot you up in front of someone else's brand. Yeah, well, so that's like, you're like, I'm not going to bid on anyone else's brand, and then you go and look for a competitor brand, you're like, this is a Bella+Duke ad. Like, here's me like sitting on your high horse saying I wouldn't do that, but yeah, not intentionally, no.
In paid, what is one metric that shows you that the paid is healthy, that you look at on a daily basis?
Definitely that like nutrition plan start rate for us, just as a kind of, I think the time from click to purchase, will probably vary from customer to customer. You get people who'll see an ad, click on it straight away and go, all right, I'm going to give this a bash. You get some people who, we see quite pronounced like monthly seasonality, as I know a lot of brands do, like towards that payday period, you see like an uplift and it drops off again. So a lot of the demand that you're building mid-month, you can expect is probably going to flow through towards the end of the month. But really just looking at that nutrition plan start rate, like, are we getting people onto the website who have had a look about the pages, they've had a look about the guides, they've absorbed our content, said, this is something that I'm interested in. I'm going to work through the steps, impart my pet's details to get my personalised plan and see a personalised price. It's just a really good measure for like, is it healthy? And when that drops, if that does drop off, you really do see it flow through and your sales drop off as well.
I'd like to understand if you've got any predictions for, obviously Andromeda caused enough of a bit of a nightmare for everybody. What's kind of the prediction that you've got the next 12 months are going to happen in platform?
Don't know about the next 12 months, but I think Meta's AI creative, I think will get better and better. I think there's going to be a lot, if you upload a static and then it will show you your 16 different versions that you can select, and you always go, no, I don't.
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Turn off. But you kind of like cast an eye on them. Our head of brand creative is going to like, she says, you cast an eye on them as you're building ads here and there, and they're definitely getting more and more sophisticated. And I think obviously Meta is moving towards like just I think their holy grail is really someone can just sit down in front of Meta, type a one line, this is my objective, this is my URL, and then it will just go and do everything for you. It'll suggest your budget, design your creative, etc. So that's, I think, whether it's 12 months or whether it's in 2 years, I think like AI creative that's supposed to look like AI creative as well, though that would be the one caveat. I think AI creative that's supposed to look real, people aren't buying it. Comes back to that kind of like authenticity piece that people, they see it and they're like, this is just like masquerading. Someone couldn't be bothered designing this, so they've just got AI to do it. But I think creative that is like, I get that it's AI, but usually it's like kind of animated or whether it's stop motion, for example. I think that kind of stuff's really cool, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that. So whether that's Meta producing that to you or whether that's like tools, third-party tools that are producing it, I think you're going to see a big rise in that.
If you own the slop seems to work a bit better. I think that's the way it looks. Look, Nick, I've really enjoyed this chat today. Thanks, Nick, for your time today. Please like and subscribe for the next episode of The Growth Files.